In digital music production, it's really easy to fall into this trap of getting stuck inside one loop. So you really enjoy listening to this 4-bar or 8-bar loop you created, but you simply have no idea how to create a full song out of it. For having some sort of movement inside a song, you need some variation, and it comes from arranging parts together in different ways, but also in having variations of the individual parts. So in this case, I have a simple bass line that sounds like this, that will turn into many variations, for example like this. So if you need some inspiration on how to get more out of your loops, this video should be for you. By the way, in case you're new here, my name is Jannis, and on my channel you can find many videos about creative music production, generally just having more fun producing music. And also on the go, during this video I'll mention some more videos that kind of catch up on things I show you here. So you're already warmly invited to later also check out some more videos you can find on my channel. So this is the bass line you already heard, and you can see it's some nice active 16th note rhythm, and let's listen to it in solo once more. And also, to put it more into context, I want to show you how it sounds like together with some drums and also some potential chords, so you can see how the change in the pitch also could relate to, for example, some chord progression. And I actually enjoy this loop and this bass line. It sounds fun and engaging, but if we make a song out of it, we need some variation at some point. And I just want to throw a bunch of ideas onto you, and you can also see this as some inspiration source. You can come back to this video at the moment where you feel stuck again, or you can watch it multiple times, or however you feel, but I'm not going to deep dive into one particular rhythm. I just want to give you ideas. The first thing that I always find super cool to do is to create the rhythmically opposite thing. So if here we have some active 16th note type bass line, let's make some longer notes. And you can easily do it by just dragging a note longer. And I mean, by itself it won't sound super exciting, but it's just really good to have this kind of variation and to see how it reacts with the music, especially inside some arrangement when you feel like there has to be some change. And in this case it would actually work with this pad sound being a little more muffled. By the way, that's a Prophet type pad sound I made with Ableton's analog synth. I'll link you the video in the corner. So something like this. And something I really encourage you to try as well is to make a clip where the bass just stays on the root note. So in this case we just delete those pitch changes and have the bass play the same note throughout the whole duration, because you see that together with the chords that still move, we create some very interesting sort of tension. And you can do the same by just using the rhythm from before, but also there staying on the same pitch. So if we go back to this kind of figure, we just drag those notes that have the alternating pitches also to the same row, and now we have this. And this type of variation that you stay on one bass note really works well as some very intense build-up before some big last chorus, just to increase the effect of it. Let's go back to our basic idea and see how we can add some notes, because obviously we're always staying on the same note until there's another chord, but we can also make it a bit more moving inside the figure. And the very obvious thing to do would be to just drag a few notes an octave higher, and you can in Ableton just click on a note, press Command and up, and then you put it some octave higher. And you can intuitively just start doing this with a couple of notes. You can still change things later, but just to get started. And let's see what happens. Okay, this one is too much, but actually apart from it I like it. And you can do exactly the same the other way around. So instead of putting it some octave higher, you can put it some octave lower. So here bring it back to the main octave and then lower, and let's see how this sounds. It's getting really low. But depending on what sound you use, this can also sound really cool and also deep. And you can also do both. So sometimes it goes some octave higher, but sometimes lower. So we just put maybe two notes to the higher octave, and then we have this type of figure. It's actually too big for the whole system. If you want to make your bassline even more active, you can try to fill up the spaces with octaves. So let's say we fill up the space here and put it some octave higher, and here And I mean, okay, I can also draw it here, but I just want to show you how you can be sure to hit the octave in case you're not so familiar yet with the MIDI grid or with tonalities or how far you have to go and where you have to put the notes. And then you get this type of line. Oh, here I forgot one. And again, you can apply the same principle as we did before by using sometimes the higher octave, but also sometimes the lower octave. Let me quickly do this. Also now I stretched it a little so you can see all notes. Sounds actually really interesting. Also a great technique is to put the whole bass line some octave higher, so you can command A and select all notes, bring it some whole octave higher, and then fill up the spaces with some octave lower, so you kind of invert your bass line. And then we get this type of line. Actually, it should still sound great in the original octave, so then we fill just up with the very low octaves in between. Yeah, this has a very deep character. And what I also really enjoy is this technique where you stay on the same note while you fill up octaves. So let's just bring down those pitches here so we have the same pitch throughout the whole bar. And then it sounds like this. Super nice. And if you put it some octave higher, it's also great. You can build up a lot of tension. By the way, in case you're enjoying my content and sometimes wonder, is there maybe a tiny way I could support this channel? I want to warmly invite you to check out the links that you can find down below in my description. There you can find many ways like channel memberships or Patreon, but also some affiliate links, access to my online courses, and I'm sure there's something that resonates with you, and just wanted to mention this real quick, and let's get back to the video. Another thing that is really efficient is to shorten the duration of individual notes. So especially if you have this kind of 16th note type bass line and sometimes have two notes directly next to each other, it's a very cool thing to just make the first one of those a little shorter, trim it a little. And you can do it with other ones as well, but I want to show it to you this way first. And also it's fun to do it somewhere else. So maybe let's trim this note and this note. And as you see, you can be free in trying this. And it's also fun because if you don't know what to expect, sometimes you're very positively surprised. Of course, sometimes it also sounds really bad. But I always like to do it this way, or not only by knowing everything, also having this kind of free, spontaneous element, because it increases the chance to surprise yourself sometimes. I mean, this one now sounds a bit random, but you hear that those short notes also have the potential for increasing tension, because it feels like you're holding back or you're just not fully there. And also, if you do it for everything, it's some amazing variation to just cool down your arrangement at some part, maybe after some big chorus or after some very intense part. Let me quickly finish this. So we'd have some sound like this. And what is also really efficient is to sometimes add some automations to your clips. So here, for example, it sounds to me like it would sound cool if I opened the filter a little in the end. So here I have a MIDI controller with which I control a bit the filter, and let's see how it sounds like. I mean, very banal example now, but it helps a lot. And also you can record your clips with different automations. So you can always record some version where the filter is really closed. And another open one. This sounds a bit weird now with the open filter and the short articulation, but it would sound better with the initial idea. Let's actually do it quickly. Something like this, and then also filter down. Maybe a little automation, stuff like this. Another really efficient thing is to overlap the bars a little, so change to another pitch a little earlier. So for example, here you see that on the second bar we go to the next pitch, and if you do it too often or with too many individual parts, it can sound really static. So what you can try is to drag this note already to the next chord, so we anticipate it a little earlier. And we can try the same here with this note. And it can be from both sides, either a note from the previous pitch or a note from the next pitch. Whatever works, you can just try it. And let's see how it affects the music. And I'll turn back on the pad so we can hear it together with the harmony. Yeah. And you can also do it the other way around by delaying it a little. So, for example, this note would still stay on the first pitch, while here, I mean, they are actually not on the 3 in this case, so it's already a little less static. But let's just put them both to the previous pitch and see how this sounds like. Ah, it's not so great. Maybe this one has to go. This works actually nicely. You see, it has a little bit of the character from the staying on one note kind of sensation, and it's also like a little tease because it stays a little longer on the note, but then it actually gets resolved, and it's really fun to play with this as well. And another great concept is to use some chromatics, especially if you change from one pitch to the other pitch. And you can either alternate like a note that exists already or insert notes that first just change the pitch of notes that exist already. It would mean that you approach the next pitch by either one position above or below, and let's choose this position. So now once we move there, we have this kind of thing, and it sounds really funky, and we do it here as well. And I like this effect a lot here. I don't like it so much, but with this note it's cool. But you can also add some notes for the chromatic transitions. So for example here, we could just quickly go with 2 notes to the next one. And also it sounds really amazing if you do it in the end again. So let's change those 2. And it really helps in order to make your bass line sound a little more human also, because those are things that bass players would use a lot. And it makes your bass line sound a little less like the typical synth bass line. Also, if you combine it with all those things I've shown you, like the octaves and also shortening notes and maybe adding some automations, all this kind of stuff. And that's maybe the most important message of this video, that now I've just shown you those individual examples, but the real fun is to use a little bit of everything on a bass line and on some variation. And through combining those things, you can probably make a million different bass lines out of one bass line. And I mean, it's usually enough to just have a couple of variations for your song. If you're also interested in how you can create bass sounds with your stock synthesizer, or particularly in Ableton Live, I'm going to link you some video here with just a couple of synth bass sounds and how you can create them. And also here's another video with some concrete example of how you can turn your loops into a full arrangement. Apart from that, I wish you inspiration with whatever it is that you create, and really hope to see you soon again at this channel. Bye!